Hello everyone, Travis Gafford here in the Yahoo Esports studio. Today I am joined by the CEO of Immortals, Noah Whinston, as well as Joshua Dardoch Hartnett. Sometimes people say Hartman, which is, I think, Meteos' last name.
Yeah, Meteos' last name.
Another jungler that you get confused with, I think, from a last name perspective.
Similar personalities as well.
Yeah, similar personalities, very trolly.
Yeah.
Always have to make sure I get it right. Either way, I guess we can officially say that Dardoch is on Immortals, right, Noah?
Yes, so Josh is going to be the starting jungler for Immortals in the 2017 North American League of Legends Championship Series. That's after structuring an agreement with Team Liquid to transfer him to the Immortals roster. And we're really excited to be able to debut not just Josh, but the entire roster that the Immortals organization will be putting forward into 2017.
Very good. So, I mean, obviously the first question is why Dardoch? And unfortunately, you have to say this right in front of him, but go for it.
Yeah, well, I'll try and keep it nicer, than I would in private. Josh is the kind of player that every team owner wants to play for them. He is incredibly passionate and driven about the game. He grinds away at problems until not only does he understand the solution, but he's also thinking 2 steps ahead to the next problem that needs to get solved. And he's the kind of guy that mentors and establishes good standards and accountability for his teammates. And a huge part of Josh's development as a player and a person is in applying that really strong internal motivation inside of a context of teamwork and camaraderie, and we're looking forward to helping him build that at Immortals.
Would you agree with all of that description about you, Dardoch?
I think generally, yeah. I think I have, where all my effort is coming from is in a good spot. Like, it's coming from a good place. I think it's more so that I'm more immature and I don't really have life experience outside of League of Legends, so when I deal with frustration, it always comes back in a negative way, and I don't necessarily look at the best plan of action when I get frustrated. And I think working with people with more life experience and generally have more life skills and working in like a team environment would help me a lot.
Yeah. Well, so I asked him about why Dardoch. I'll ask you why Immortals.
I chose Immortals because I wanted to stay in a top-tier organization, and it was pretty much just anybody in the top 5, and I chose Immortals because I have a lot of faith in Noah to give me a strong roster to play with, and I know that signing a multi-year deal with Immortals is the best plan of action for my future, for sure.
Very good. I mean, what has off-season been like for you, Noah? Because obviously there's a lot of stuff going past. We just heard that Reignover, just not too long ago, departing. I mean, what has... aside from even Dardoch, what has this whole experience been like for you?
So off-season is always going to be a turbulent time, not just for fans and for players, but also for organizations. And for us, what we really prioritized moving from 2016 into 2017 was nailing down the core values that Immortal stands for as an organization and making sure that the roster that we field in 2017 reflects those values as well as the 2016 roster did. And a lot of people fell in love with that 2016 roster because of that easy charisma that the players just had together, right? They synergized really well from day one. And I think that not only have we put together another roster where the players are really aligned in their goals, both short-term and long-term, but we've also put together a roster where players, I think, compared to the rest of the North American and European LCS, are uniquely motivated and driven to work hard towards victory.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me that you are talking a lot about sort of the values and goals and building a team around that. I think for a lot of people, the perception is that for a lot of owners and teams that it's just about, hey, let's just get good players and put them on a team together and hopefully they work together, or let's just try to find people that work well together. Is it more challenging to try to come up with a team that meets, like an easy charisma, a situation like you were just saying, that kind of thing?
So it's certainly more difficult, but the payoff is also much better, right? When we build a roster like that, not only does it create a better environment for the players to succeed in, right? And creating an environment is a huge part of having a successful team. You can build super team after super team, Longzhu after Longzhu, and that's not necessarily going to lead to competitive results. Mm-hmm. But additionally, the reason that we care so much about extending these brand values is not just about the internal environment, but also the kind of externally facing fan experience that we create around the team. So at Immortals, our goal as an organization is to create the most fulfilling fan experience in esports. it's not just to win as a standalone thing. Winning is part of creating a fulfilling fan experience, but so is having players that are inherently entertaining and care about cultivating their fan bases as much as someone like Dardoch does.
Yeah.
It's about creating content that is compelling and engaging, not just phoning it in on the same formats that you could get from any other team. Our goals go so far beyond just winning a championship, and that's the philosophy that we construct our roster with.
Dardoch, I want to talk to you. I feel like, no disrespect here, but a year ago, no one knew who Dardoch was, right? In general, NALCS fans did not know, right? Now, everyone knows who Dardoch is. And we'll talk a little bit about your personality and some of the stuff we've seen from you later, but I want to ask you, from a skill perspective, how do you feel about your position in the North American LCS and in North American general as a jungler now 1 year in?
I think throughout my whole career, I've been arguably like one of the best, and I always place myself, top 3. I think I'm definitely below some of the more well put together like veteran players like Xmithy or Rainover, but I think I'll more than likely be able to pass them in the coming year, especially working with some of the veterans that we have on our roster. But yeah, I just think. Yeah, I'm pretty okay.
Yeah, pretty okay.
Yeah, pretty okay.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's interesting that you mention feeling right now as though you don't have that level that Rainover has, yet filling his shoes on Immortals now. Do you take that as sort of a challenge that, it's time for you to be able to step up and sort of fill the role that he did on Immortals?
I think I'll be able to fill more so, I'll be able to fill the shoes of Rainover more so after one split. I think I'll be completely fine and kind of doing the same job he did. And I think after 2 splits, I'll just be better.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you a little bit about the other side of your play and your teamwork, which is obviously a lot of people saying, oh, you're very toxic. And we saw Breaking Point where I think a lot of people had differing opinions about you afterwards. Some people saying no team should pick you up. After the behavior that we saw in that video. How do you feel about the statements like that, and also just sort of about where you're at now versus sort of the Dardoch that we saw in Breaking Point?
I think I've definitely made strides as a person and as a teammate since, the Breaking Point was a last split thing, and it's been a few months since the end of the season, and I progressively have got better and better. Breaking Point Dardoch was nothing compared to TLA Dardoch and early season Dardoch. I was really not a good teammate, and I was very selfish, and I wanted to kind of showcase myself more so than help my team win or do the better thing for my organization, where I kind of went into TL knowing that the roster wasn't going to win a championship, and it wasn't going to be I didn't think it was going to be a long-term thing for me, so I just kind of wanted to show myself off and then join a roster like Immortals or TSM, something like that. And I think the whole experience and especially the community backlash kind of gave me, it kind of humbled me and kind of put me in perspective. You've only been playing for a year, you're not really that big of a deal. So yeah. It's you got to get your act together or you're going to lose your job before you even, experience the whole thing.
Yeah, and I also want to ask you, how much do you feel as though sort of the Dardoch that we saw in Breaking Point Dardoch, I think you called him, how much of that was, in your mind, a product of the environment that you were in and sort of that team? Just switching to a different team automatically solve a lot of those issues? And how much of it was just, as you say, stuff that you're working on and maturing yourself?
I think a lot of it was because of the environment, but even then, I think I should, as a person, showing character, I should be able to kind of not be that immature and not cause that many issues, where my frustration and my problem-solving technique wasn't the best.
Right.
But it always came from a good place where I just wanted to win and I wanted to help my teammates improve. But when I couldn't find those solutions to help them improve and we weren't winning, that's when the frustration kind of took over, and then you saw me being toxic or passive-aggressive, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, Noah, to you, I'm sure that there are going to be a great deal of Immortals fans who are really excited about the fact that you've picked up one of the best junglers in North America, probably an equal amount who are worried about it just because of his reputation now. For you, how do you address any fans that are bringing up those concerns with you?
So I think that what you said about Josh's previous behavior, at least partially being a product of his environment, is spot on. And at Immortals, we put a really big emphasis on being able to solve some of those out-of-game issues. So we have an in-house coach, Robert Yip, with training in sports psychology, mental health, physical health, things that will help teammates not only learn how to problem solve and communicate better, but also just mesh together better as teammates overall. And our goals as an organization are very much kind of dual focused. We're both looking at in-game success and out-of-game success for our players. So for us, when we look at a player like Dardoch, a player that we have signed through 2019 to a 3-year deal, we're looking not just at the Dardoch of last year or the Dardoch of this year, or even the Dardoch of next year. We're thinking about Dardoch as a player being part of this organization for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And so when we think about that choice for our roster, we're taking into account all of the growth, both personally and professionally and competitively, that is left for Dardoch to do. And he's already this good. He has a lot more room to go.
Yeah. Now, I guess maybe to wrap up the whole conversation, with several of the former players already announced as departing Immortals, how confident are you in next year's roster being able to, I'm sure you're still figuring it out a little bit, but how confident are you in next year's roster being able to hit sort of the same level or even higher that this year's roster hit?
So we are very confident that next year's roster is not only, as I said earlier, going to kind of carry forward the brand ideals of the Immortals organization, but also perform competitively to an extent that's going to keep our fans happy and hopefully make them happier than they were last year.
Yeah.
A big part of the reason we think that is because I think when fans originally look at a roster, the first and only thing they see is individual skill, right? And of course, that's all they should see. When they see a list of names, it's hard to see more than that. But the roster that we are creating this year is the product of hours upon hours of interviews with players, making sure that their goals and their work methods and their feedback communication methods are aligned and won't be conflicting on a day-to-day basis. And so when you look at the Immortals roster when it's fully announced, you're going to see a roster that, if everything works as intended, functions as more than the sum of its parts.
When will we hear the full roster announced?
Based on when I think this interview is coming out, you should have the complete roster picture within a few days.
Oh, really exciting. Okay. I thought you'd just give me some dumb answer to that, dodging the question, but that sounds more exciting, I think, for fans that are watching
Well,
this.
why do you think I gave you that answer?
Oh, well, here we go. All right. Very good. Well, hey, let's wrap this up. I know that at the end of my interviews, I always offer whoever I'm interviewing a chance to say anything to the fans. So if you guys would like to say anything, Noah, maybe starting with you, to any of the fans out there.
Sure. So I want to start off by thanking all of you for your support, both over the previous season, during the off season. I know it's been not the easiest or most fun time to be an IMT fan over the last few months because you saw a lot of bad news and not a lot of good news. But going forward from here, you're going to be seeing more and more good things coming out of the Immortals organization, not just good rosters, not just good players, but good content, good fan engagement, things that make you want to be continuing to root for Immortals and continuing to support Immortals. So I look forward to being able to deliver those things to you, and I look forward to, hopefully, your continued support.
Dardoch, any words for the community?
I just want to say, hopefully you guys, I'm really nervous about the announcement of me joining Immortals because all that's on social media currently is like Immortals is doomed and, like the roster, everybody's leaving. And I'm really nervous about me joining because I know that the community, I'm in a pretty bad spot currently, but I hope you guys can understand that I'm changing for the better and that my future looks very bright.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming in today to talk to me about this. I'm really excited about seeing what Immortals looks like in 2017. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things esports here at Yahoo Esports.